Hey guys, it's Jennifer Huff with the Joyful Table. I'm here today to show you how to make this super cute Simply Blessed door hanger or sign. You can hang it anywhere you want. Mine's actually going in my bathroom. So if you have picked up your kit, you should have everything you need. You're going to need a stencil and some ribbon and some little twine and some greenery, little foliage stuff, along with just one sponge and some brown stain. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So I will knock this out for you today. The first thing is on this beautiful birch wood, we are going to be staining. Now you're going to have to use kind of a little chunk of wood, of stain here, but you want to be careful not to do any crazy shapes or anything on here, because sometimes what you put on here first is going to stick. So we don't want to make sure we have like a big dark line across it or anything like that. So we're going to kind of try to stay in a circle motion and kind of try moving as quickly as we can. So when I get going, you're going to see it's going to take me like 30 seconds to stain, but I'm going to work quickly because I don't want any of that stain to start really drying on me before I'm able to spread it out. Okay, so I'm just gonna, like I said, I kind of dip and I spread as far as that stain will go before I dip it again. And I want to try not to overlap if I can. Sometimes you just can't help it, so you'll have to kind of just even it out a little bit or overlap other places too. But like I said, I'm just gonna kind of keep on moving, spreading out that stain as much as I can. I love to see some of this beautiful wood grain. So I'm kind of nearing the end and I don't have enough stain. So I'm just gonna dip a little bit more and spread out on here. We don't have to do the edges of this one. What's awesome about these wood circles is that they are laser cut. So they are cut to a perfect circle and the edges are kind of burned, which I think looks super cool. And it makes it, we don't have to stain it. So we only have to do this top portion. Okay, so like I said, I worked very quickly and I spread it all out and I got it to where I like it. So now you can see, so it's nice and even. The cool thing about this board at this point is if you just tried that and you were like, oh my gosh, mine looks terrible, it's very splotchy or whatever, you have a few options. You can sand it down. You can even wipe it a little bit with a paper towel to try to get some of it off, especially if you have way too much stain on there. So always err on the side of not enough. But the other cool thing is that these are double-sided. So if you really hate it and you think you messed it up, which I don't think you did, then you can flip it over and you can try again. All right, so now I've got this on my hand, so let me go run to the sink. Literally just takes like 5 seconds to wash off. So I'm gonna get a paper towel. I'm gonna wipe this off. So you should have all the materials that you need, but I do think you need to add a couple tools. All right, so I just dripped water on my sign. So if you're crazy like me and you do that, then you might have to touch it up just a teeny tiny bit. No big deal. All right, so I'm gonna set this aside so that it will dry and that I won't flick any more water on it. And before we keep going, you need a pair of scissors. You need something that's flat, like a scraper card. You can use an ID card. This is an old gift card, so we just use this sometimes to clean our kitchen, to be totally honest. But you need something just to scratch your stencil with, and you also need a glue gun. So you got a glue stick in your kit, but you just need to use your glue gun. So I have mine plugged in behind me. It's heating up. And we'll use that here in just a second. While that is drying, I really want that to be super dry. So we're gonna give that some time and we're gonna work on our bow. So the next thing you need for your bow is your glue gun, which you'll use here in just a minute. You're gonna need some of this twine right here. And I'm gonna push apart I'm gonna move my stain, make sure I don't have any on my counter because I don't wanna mess up my ribbon at all. And then you're gonna need your scissors, okay? So we're going to show you how to do this ribbon. This big piece of twine is actually going to be used to tie a little bit of your ribbon, and it's going to be used to hang it on the back of your sign. So we don't need a big piece of this right now. We need like maybe 6 inches, like a little piece like this. And then you should leave kind of a long piece for the rest of your sign. So I'm just going to cut off this small piece, and the rest of it I'm just going to leave over there with my sign for now to put on the back of it. But this little piece is just going to help us hold the sign together. Okay, so we have this piece right here, our long piece of ribbon. And what you need to do on this piece is we're kind of going to fold it over 2 times on each side. It's going to end up making 4 loops. And then after the 4 loops, we're going to have little legs that come out, like kind of tails that come out of the bottom of the bow. So what I do is I literally just start folding it like this. So I just have a little tail that hangs down and I folded 1 little loop, okay? So where I'm pinching is going to be like the center of my bow, all right? Now, when I go to make my next loop, I just have to fold it over and I try to make it, you know, pretty similar in size to the one that I did on this side, okay? Now I'm gonna do that again with 2 more loops, but these loops are gonna be smaller, okay? So I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna do another little loop, and every time I'm doing this, I'm crossing that middle. So that middle is gonna be what holds this bow together. So I wanna make sure that I keep crossing that middle section. And then I'm gonna, again, do 1 more little loop that crosses over like that. Okay, so now I did that, put it on my sign. It's too big. I don't really like it. The big loops are a little bit big. So look, check it out. I can just redo it. So I'm gonna do that one more time so you can see it. Again, I'm gonna just start with a little loop. It kind of bends slightly down like that. So I've got 1 loop and then I've got a little tail that's coming off right here. I'm gonna fold over and I wanna make those 2 similar. So you can see that one's a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna pull it, make that one a little bit bigger, and I'm gonna do that again. And these front loops are gonna be just a little bit smaller, almost the same size, but just a tiny bit smaller to give your bow a little bit more dimension. I'm gonna do that and I'm gonna come back across there. I know it's a little bit funky looking, but this is the joy and of using this ribbon that has the wire in it, is we'll be able to kind of finagle these to look a little bit better here in just a second. I'll move these around just a little bit. I've got a tail. All right, so now this is what I wanted to end up with. It was a kind of a longer piece right here. And the reason being is I'm gonna add some more tails on here. So I've got this little piece hanging down. I'm gonna cut this side to be equal to that, okay? So I cut here. So there, I'm gonna set this aside for just a second. So now I've got my 4 loops and I've got my 2 tails, and I'm gonna take my tiny twine, and if I lay it down, I need to tie this twine right in the center just to hold this bow together. I'm not gonna pull it super duper tight, but a little bit where the ribbon gets squished just a tiny bit. So I'll show you. So I pulled it, and see, it kind of pulled the ribbon together just a little bit, but not too tight where it's completely squished down, okay? Now, again, the part about having this like wire ribbon is nice because I can really move these bows and stuff around to where I like it. So don't be too worried right now if these are a little bit squished and flat looking. I can fluff all of those up how I want. And then I'm gonna show you how to make like a fancy tip on your ribbon. So we'll just fold the tail like that. So this is my folded edge and this is my open edge. And then I just cut it at a 45-degree angle going up from the folded edge. So folded edge to the wire, and there you go, you end up with a cute little tail like that. I'm gonna do the same thing for the second one. So I fold it, this is my folded edge, here's my open edge. I'm gonna cut starting at the fold, going up at an angle towards the open edge, and we end up with these cute little tails like that. Now, I've also got this extra piece, okay? So on this extra piece, I'm first gonna cut off a piece that's only about 3/4 of an inch or so, 3/4 of an inch, excuse me. This little piece, this is gonna just cover that twine that we tied it together with. So this is just itty bitty. Now what's left, I'm gonna fold it in half, and I'm gonna, well, actually, you know what? I'm not even gonna cut that. I am just gonna do it like this. I'm gonna spread it apart a little bit, because what I'm doing is I'm making 2 more tails for my, my bow to just kind of give it a little bit more volume. So now, again, I folded it, I kind of made it like a ribbon, just folded it like this into a little triangle. And then I'm gonna take the tail and I'm gonna fold it, cut from the folded edge going up. And there you go. And then again, fold it, cut from the folded edge going up. There you go. So you'll end up with that, okay? So this is gonna, of course, get glued onto our sign later, but I can go ahead and just assemble it together because I want that stain to dry. So what I'm doing is I'm trimming off this extra little tails of the twine that was on the back. So I put my knot on the back of this, but it doesn't really matter if it's on the front or the back of your bow, since we're gonna cover it with our little piece of extra fabric right here. So now what I'm gonna do is let me grab my glue gun. Okay, so I've got my glue gun, and so I've got my little tail like this, and I'm just gonna put a little bit of glue here, and I'm gonna attach my bow onto there. Okay, so I'm working on my granite counter, so I'm gonna put a tiny bit in between the two ribbons so they'll kind of stick together, or between the fold. It is one ribbon that's folded. And I'm gonna put like a little dollop of hot glue there, and I'm going to attach my bow, and I'm just gonna hold it in place for just a minute so that that can get cool and hard. So I ended up with like 2 longer tails and 2 shorter tails and 2 bigger loops and 2 smaller loops, and I think it's just so cute. So, and of course we're gonna add the greenery at the end, so that kind of gives it a little bit more volume as well. So I'm gonna hold that for a second, let that get cool, and then I have this little piece that I'm gonna just glue across the middle. That's just gonna help hide this twine just a little bit. So I'm gonna put some glue right across. Just be careful with this. This is like a burlap type fabric. Youch! Just like I said. So be careful and hold that so that, just watch out because it's gonna burn you if it seeps through. So just be careful as you hold that in place. So you can hold it in place with your fingers, or if you have to, you could use like your scissors or something else. So I'm gonna try to scrape some of that off the counter. See, there you go. That's why the scraper comes in handy. You just clean that right on up. No husband is the wiser. All right, and then I've got my loops. And now the fun, if you've got this kind that's got the wire in it, is, like I said, I can just move some of these around to look the way I want them to look. I can fluff up my loops the way I want them to be, etc., etc. So, got my fancy schmancy little bow. I'm gonna set that aside. All right, and then let's check on our circle. So the way I tell that it's dry is I hold it up in the air and I look in the light and I see, is it shiny? So mine is not shiny, and I rub my hand on it and it's dry. So this part is pretty easy breezy. I did your lettering, your vinyl letters. I already prepped it all for you. So we pulled out all the little insides. You helped my little foster daughter earn some money, so she was excited. She did all those for me. And then I also put the clear transfer tape already on the top. So usually if we're doing an in-person party, you have to do all that hard work. So we already did that for you. So now I want to use this clear transfer tape to pick up this white vinyl so I can put it on my sign, okay? So this white is all gonna come off of this blue backing. So first I'm gonna use my scraper and I'm just gonna rub this really good so that this clear plastic will be nice and stuck to that white vinyl. This is great because usually we use the vinyl and we paint, but we're not doing that this time because I felt like with this sign, it's usually on your door or it's somewhere right here up close. We weren't going for a very rustic look. We wanted to be sharp and crisp lines, so we decided to just use the direct vinyl. This is like an outdoor grade vinyl, and we're gonna apply that, which is gonna make it super easy. So if this is your first time doing a party, I think you'll be just fine putting this on. Okay, so I scraped it really good. Now I'm gonna separate this blue, separate the blue from the white. Now look, I'm already having a little bit of trouble that white didn't come up. If it doesn't come up, I'm gonna pinch both sides. So I have one finger pinching over here, one finger pinching over here, and I'm kinda gonna pinch I need that white to get off of there, and I wanna get it started. I feel like once you get the letters going, then they tend to just keep going and they'll keep peeling off. But sometimes you have to really start. See how like I have a little tail that stayed behind on the S? I'm just gonna barely pinch that on both sides, and it really will help it pick up and keep going. You might have to do that on each of these letters. So you kind of just work your way around, take your time, especially if you haven't done vinyl work before, because we need this vinyl to stay intact, okay? So I'm just gonna push and pull, push and pull, push and pull. So I'm just pinching the sign on both sides, and once you get a letter going, it should keep going. So especially on those cursive ones, you start the corners or you start the tails, and they will peel right up, okay? If that took you longer, don't worry, I've done thousands of these, so it's a little bit easier for me, but you take all the time in the world that you need for that. So now I'm ready to apply this on here. When I set this down, I'm gonna have some wiggle room. So I wanna make sure I get this as straight and centered as possible. So I'm just gonna make sure I look over, and I really wanna look at the spacing from this white circle to the edge of my wood. So I'm just gonna kind of wiggle it around until I think it's straight and centered and good. And when I think that it's good, then I can push it down. So I'm gonna push it down, no going back, and rub all the way around just with my hand to kind of get it started. So now that it's on there, it's good, it's straight. I'm gonna take my scraper card, rub it again. And now I'm trying to get that white vinyl to stick to my brown board, okay? So I scraped it all over. I've still got my clear on there. I've still got this on here. So now to get that off, I'm just gonna take my clear and I'm gonna pull it parallel to the board. So I'm gonna keep it low and I just start peeling slowly. Especially if you had some trouble on that first step, this step will be super easy, because if it was harder to pick up the vinyl, then I feel like it's a lot easier to get it to stick to your board. That just means it was super sticky. So now you should be able to just slowly pull this off. We are trying to make sure that all of that white stays behind, okay? So part of my outside was kind of trying to come up a tiny bit, so I just made sure I laid it flat, gently pushed it down, and that is good to go. So look how easy breezy that was. All right, so now I'm gonna hang with my, since I've got my hot glue right here, let's see if it's still good. Okay, good. Okay, so I've got my hot glue going. So what I'm gonna do, sorry, excuse my timer. I'm cooking dinner since I kicked my 8 children and my husband out of the house to make this video. They are at the park having a lot of fun, I'm sure, in the river. So I'm trying to multitask and get all of this done and then have food ready when they get home. So I've got my little jute string, and what I'm gonna do is I kind of just pinch my sign and hold it up. That way I can figure out where the center point is, okay? So on my center point, and I can hold it out and make sure that it's straight, then I know that if that's the center and that's gonna be straight, then that's where I can apply my jute string on the back for this to hang up. So I'm just gonna kind of lay it back here where I want it. I can also kind of check out the length that I want it so I can see how big do I want it. Mine's a little bit long, so I'm gonna trim it down just a bit. And then once I kind of see where I want this to hang, I'm gonna put some hot glue around it. I unplugged it because it was across the kitchen, so my hot glue is getting a little bit hard. So I'm gonna have to convince it that it's gonna work for me, but I think it'll be good. All right, so I'm pushing these strings down. Just depending on where you're gonna hang it is like, you know, how long you're gonna want this to hang. The only thing I've never experienced this, but I've had someone tell me before that they had a sign like this and their door was like solid black, or, you know, they didn't have a covered area at all. So when they hung it up, the hot glue melted. So just keep an eye on that. If you feel like if you put a sign or a wreath on your door and it gets way too hot, then what you might wanna do on this step is you could start with the hot glue, but if you feel like you're gonna have an issue with it being too hot on your door or anything, then maybe do the perimeter of it in like a super glue, something that's not gonna melt, or even like some kind of duct tape or anything over the back of this, since it's gonna be on the back of your door or your wall, depending on where you hang it. So see, I just put a little bit of glue on like kind of both sides of the jute. It's a little bit messy, but that's okay, because nobody sees that, right? It's on the back. So you can see when I flip it around that this is how it's gonna hang. If you think it's a little bit crooked when you hang it, then you can just pull that off and you can move it to wherever you want it, okay? So I've got that on there. And now I am already to put on this bow. So now I've got my bow. I'm gonna see, where do I want it? I'm gonna kind of spread out my my bow tails just a little bit to make it where they're not covering my words too much. And now I'm gonna just put some hot glue on the back of this. Potentially, right? Come on, you can do it. We're almost done. All right, so I got a little bit of hot glue. I'm gonna put it way up top. This is just preference. You can put it where you want it. I put mine a little bit up towards the top where my jute string is. And I think sometimes when you handle these bows a lot, they get a little bit, you know, flattened. So you're welcome to just keep on fluffing and make it to where you like what that bow looks like. So I'm gonna hold down that bow, and then I'm moving around my ribbon till I like kind of its placement on there. And then with your greenery, so look at that, we're almost done. How crazy is that? So with our greenery, I'm kind of gonna fluff up my greenery a little bit to make it nice and pointy, and I love all the volume of this. And then I am actually just gonna stick this through my bow. So I just find a little spot and I stick it in there. And then same thing for the other side. I'm kind of gonna fluff it up, make it look nice and pretty. And then I'm just gonna push it up through the other end of my bow. If you can't find a spot for this to really push through, you are more than welcome to maybe cut it a little bit shorter and then hot glue it. So put some hot glue on the tip before feeding it up under your bow. And then we're just gonna fluff it up and move that greenery around the way that we like it. And look at that, look how gorgeous that is. I love it. We just redid part of our master bathroom, and I'm gonna hang one of these in our master bathroom. So we love it. It looks awesome. You did a great job. I hope that you were able to keep up and get this done, and hopefully you got a group of friends to do this together with you. And I just want to say thank you so much for buying the kit, and I hope that next month we'll be able to see you in person. We're gonna make a really awesome party. I was gonna say what it was, but I can't ruin the surprise yet, so you'll have to just wait and see. So we're gonna announce that pretty soon. So hopefully next month we'll see you. If you're local and you still need a kit like this, then please let me know and I'll get one to you. And if not, we can always ship you what you need. So just let us know, and thank you for watching. Have a great day.